All right, everybody. Hello. Happy Friday. It's the Democracy Stupid. And you guys know I'm not a journalist. I am uh, passionate about our democracy and I have ideas about it. I'm not alone. A lot of people talk a lot about the news, but there's real news and there are real reporters who do real reporting that we all count on. And Scott MacFarlane is high on that list, so high on that list that since leaving corporate media and founding his own thing, his day ahead newsletter is not only a must read, but a must read people actually read. So, so Scott, thank you so much for spending time with me today.
Thank you. I appreciate you reading it. We do it every morning at 7 a.m. Eastern time hour. I try to put my soul and heart in there. I'm glad you're reading it.
No, well, look. Not only am I reading it, but I think you are now one of. If I didn't want to, you're unavoidable. You're now coming on radio, and I'm in Chicago, and you're going to be on WBBM.
It was a priority for me. One of the tragedies inside CBS News, and there is more than one tragedy inside CBS News, is they shut down CBS Radio
I
earlier
know.
this year.
Yeah.
99 years of friggin' history, including Edward R. Murrow on rooftops in World War II. That's the legacy of CBS Radio, the greatest radio organization in American media history. They just closed it. And those CBS Radio affiliates, including WBBM in
Mm-hmm.
Chicago, KNX
Mm-hmm.
Los Angeles,
Mm-hmm.
WSB Atlanta, they still need reporting. So we've
They
opened
sure
those
do.
doors up.
Well, let's stay on this topic a little bit. I want to talk about reporting before we get to the news, right? Because the president, he spends a lot of time telling Americans that news is fake news, that the path to truth runs through his narrative rather than through the hard work of gathering the facts, checking the facts, analyzing data, assuring people that it's accurate. And he's an extreme case, but I mean, if I look in the mirror, I'm kind of in that business. I want to be grounded in facts, but I'm in the opinion business. How do all of us sort of right size the value of journalism when narrative is the thing that everybody seems to want to hang their hat on?
Some of this problem is going to get fixed on its own in the post Trump era. Some of it is. He's the one who is trying to undermine trust in news, journalism,
Everything.
fact based evidence. He's trying to undermine trust in a whole
Law,
lot of other things too.
universities, yeah, contracts, yeah, yeah, right.
Yeah. So, some of that will cleanse itself away when he.
Uh-oh, I've lost you, Scott, or you've lost me. Well, hang on, everybody. We're going to fix this problem. Um, this is the fun of live broadcasts, whatever it is that we do on these lines, and figures, right? We're talking about distrust in the media, um, and here we go. So I think maybe we will both log out and log back in. Don't go away. Okay, I'm back. Scott is still working on getting back. Um, Sam, if you're in touch with him, can you help him get back in?
Yeah, I see him now. Hey everybody, it's me, Sam Osterhout, the executive producer here at Lincoln Square. I'm going to bring Scott in right now. Thank you for your patience. Scott, do we have you?
Every good story needs a dramatic turn and twist. So
Doesn't
I
it?
just gave y'all one.
So you were talking about like winning back trust in reporting, and then you disappeared. It was like a plot.
It's a metaphor, isn't it, dude? Is it?
Yeah.
And I hope not to happen again. Part of it's going to cleanse itself when Trump's gone. He is continuing to undermine credibility of lots of institutions. Journalism's one of them. The rest of that's going to be up to us to make sure we are being mindful of sourcing and of people who show receipts when they communicate information. Journalists will show you their work. They'll show you the court record. They'll show you the financial document. They'll show you the notes. They'll show you the interview clip. Opinionists don't. So you start with that. And I'll tell you, one of the issues that really scares me is when there is deliberate misinformation on November 5th or November 3rd. There will be deliberate misinformation to sow seeds of distrust in the election as the election's happening and in the days after. We have to be diligent of separating fact-based, receipt-showing journalism from people just popping off on social media. It all goes down the same funnel, and I'm worried some people can't distinguish between the two.
You should worry about that. I mean, we have plenty of evidence that people can't distinguish between the two. I'm terrified about it, and I do what I do, but I'm married to a real journalist, and I know the difference.
You know the difference. The person to whom you're married knows the difference, but I'm worried my mom doesn't. And if she sees something on social media, she can't differentiate, and she's a relatively good student of these things.
Yeah.
So that's the danger. The people who sow misinformation and will do so on election day recognize the public can't discern. And that's where the risk exists for public officials, election boards, politicians, and people who want to see, an honest election.
Well, I mean, this week we learned the Republican Senate Campaign Committee is standing up pink slime organizations around the country. These are, this isn't just disinformation, it's disinformation pretending to come from journalists.
And let's think of the ways it's going to manifest itself during the election. You'll see somebody on social media saying, I want to get this out there before they pull my video down, but I saw some bad stuff at the polling place. I saw non-citizens voting. I saw things that were, they're letting anybody in. And you can't disprove a negative. You can't actually prove that person's lying, although we know he or she's lying. So how do we make sure the public can differentiate that from what the local news outlets reporting? That's going to be something they want to start planning for now. Yeah. How do you respond to this crap?
And who do you trust? But we know it's coming. Who do you trust between now and then to tell you the truth? That's why, again, real journalists doing real work are just so incredibly important. And those of us who are in the business I'm in need to be pointing to real journalists and saying, this is where you got to get your information. I mean, we can tell you what we think about it, but you're doing the reporting.
The platforms used to help us do that. The platforms used to do verifications and branding on people who had some level of experience or a work product that showed they were journalists. Now the platforms do the opposite. They will verify anybody who pays a certain amount of money. So the contrasts are more difficult.
Well, this cycle, they may not even be anybody's. They may be anything's.
That's right.
It's just like there's this crazy world of junk out there. All right, you were once in local news, and local news is hemorrhaging all over the country, and that's really where trust, I think, gets built. I mean, if you reported that I opened a restaurant, in downtown DC, people could see it with their own eyes. It's kind of stuff that validates reality as opposed to some of the national stuff. I'm worried that we've lost our taste for local news.
Here's the good and the bad news. I'll give you the good news first. Local news does still inspire the most trust in journalism that exists today. The local news has the most trust. The local news will have the hardest time losing its trust. That's good. That actually makes it economically valuable, economically sturdy for years to come.
Yeah.
And they can't even screw that up. They are downsizing because of
Yep.
there's less advertising revenue out there. Just like you don't have classified ads in the newspaper anymore. You don't
Right.
have as many advertisers on TV and radio, so they're losing people. That's a problem. The
Yeah.
downside is the administration has just allowed more mega mergers. They've just loosened the rules for more companies to consolidate. When you consolidate media organizations, the first thing that happens is massive layoffs. So there'll be even fewer journalists in those local newsrooms soon, which makes their product thinner and their product less worth your time. But the trust isn't going to go away. When I was a local news journalist, people would come up to me in the grocery store and they wanted to share their ideas. They wanted to share what's happening to them because they trusted me. They just trusted me because I'm part of the local news. I don't enjoy that. When I was in network news, people thought I was just some guy on TV. In the local news, I was the guy from the neighborhood.
Yep.
And they can't screw that up is the good news.
All right. Well, let's I'm glad. And I wanted to get your take on reporting and where we are. But now let's turn to some of your great work in covering Washington. And I guess, I'd sort of like to know how you decide what to cover. But one of the stories you can't not cover is Blanche and the Justice Department and the confirmation. And I guess this morning, Senator Cassidy, I wasn't going to say weighed in, but he really, he's such a lightweight. There's like weighed in isn't fair. Like, what did he do?
So he was the last man standing. He ultimately, because of the way the other votes fell, was the person who was going to decide singularly if Todd Blanche gets confirmed or if Todd Blanche gets rejected. A disproportionately huge statement against President Trump, because this is a top line cabinet position. And obviously Trump's made this a priority of his through the start and middle of this administration. Bill Cassidy was one of the few remaining senators who voted to convict Donald Trump at his impeachment trial after January 6th. Bill Cassidy surprised us all 5 years ago when he said, you know what? I watched this trial. I think he's guilty. I think he should be convicted. I didn't think that walking in, but I think that walking out. That vote has dogged him politically with Trump over the last 5 years. Trump will cut you off once you cross him. And Cassidy could not survive his primary earlier this year because Trump endorsed the competitor because Trump's still sore about that impeachment conviction. After that primary, we thought Bill Cassidy would be more liberated to vote his conscience because his time is limited. He's about to leave office as a lame duck, and Trump just guaranteed the conclusion of Cassidy's political career. Cassidy talked tough, did, I guess, cross the president a little bit in the last few months. But when push came to shove, he was not going to vote against Trump's nominee. And there are any number of possible reasons why, but I can't say anybody here is surprised. His party talks tough, but they rarely actually vote against Trump when push comes to shove, because look what happens. Bill Cassidy lost his primary because he crossed him once before.
I don't understand. This morning, Bill Cassidy said, I don't like the weaponization of the Justice Department. I see it going on. We can't have that. Therefore, I think it's a good idea to put Todd Blanche there. I mean,
that's what'll piss you off, because he starts off explaining all the reasons why he shouldn't confirm Todd Blanche and then explains why he's going to confirm Todd Blanche. Putting those two things together in the same stew is just going to piss off everybody. The argument he made was that, first of all, this targeting of political critics by the Department of Justice and Todd Blanche is unacceptable in American democracy, and he's not satisfied that they're still pursuing it and still seem to be trying it. So he just laid out an argument why you don't ever want to confirm the president's former defense lawyer to be the attorney general to engage in a retribution tour. Then Cassidy kind of gave away the game. He said that based on his conversations with U.S. attorneys, federal prosecutors, and the former attorney general for Trump, Bill Barr, he thinks this is the best we're going to get, that nobody can completely stop Trump, nobody can be a real check on Trump, and that Todd Blanche is as good as anybody. That type of surrender, that type of I give up, is what sickens people about politicians, whether they're on the left or the right. We can't constrain the president. It's the same thing Texas Senator John Cornyn said earlier this week. And that's defeatism by the Article I branch of government.
It is their job, right?
Literally.
Why are they there, right? So and in America these days, the Senate will not do its job and remain independent. I don't even say they have to check the president. They have to be independent. make their own judgment. But we've seen law firms decide and law firms that we thought knew better say they're not going to be independent. We've seen universities say, yeah, sure, you can do our admissions, right? I mean, the numbers of, and your former workplace, a proud independent media organization, seems to be in the tank. I mean, the big institutions that Americans counted on for years are leaving the hard work to us, to ordinary citizens and some brave independent reporters to do the job. It's crazy.
That's it's symptomatic of an overreaching branch of government. It's symptomatic of a power play. I had a conversation earlier today with the attorney, the teammate of mine, Katie Fang, who's
Love
going to
Katie
court.
Fang.
She is filed
She's a hero because of that suit.
Yeah, the suit she filed, which I think you're fairly characterizing as heroic, is one that would require, through a court order, the Department of Justice to release more of the Epstein case files. She's made some early successes in that suit. It will continue for weeks to come. But one of the things Katie said that resonated with me is that she's serving as some form of a check or a firewall against an overreaching Department of Justice. That's the Senate's job. They've unilaterally disarmed, so now it's up to Katie and some brave journalists to do it, and they're willing to do it, even though these things lead to threats, menacing, and all kinds of problems, personally. And even though it's not a paid job, they have to because nobody else will. That speaks to the moment we're in, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, well, and look, it was up to the people of Chicago and the people of Minneapolis to do that job when ICE showed up in force, because the folks in Congress took a pass, couldn't do it. All right, so you talked about Cassidy's paying a price for his impeachment vote. I know you paid attention to January 6th a lot and to Trump's obsession with 2020. How much is that impacting our government now? I mean, how many of these January 6ers are embedded in the administration?
We know of at least one who worked in the Department of Justice, which is an irony that speaks for itself. These are convicted January 6 rioters. Let me start with the macro, the big picture.
Yep.
The fact that Trump continues to lie about January 6th, call them peaceful protesters, call them victims. The fact that he continues to deny the 2020 election results that gave rise to the insurrection, I think that's at least partly, if not overwhelmingly, responsible for the unique toxicity and hate that is in our government right now. There are Democrats who can't look their Republican colleagues in the eyes because they're joining Trump's lies about a violent attack on themselves, on Congress, on the Article 1 branch of government, and on a free and fair election. They can't sustain having conversations, bipartisan meetings, bipartisan work with the Republicans who are now championing the rioters who were trying to kill them, hang them, and misogynistically threaten them. So let's start there. Like, that's the ongoing storyline of January 6th denialism, is it's poisoning the politics. It's why we are so divided at the upper levels. At the lower levels, it also is fueling a lot of our frustrations with Trump, with the GOP. They're denying what we all saw with our own eyes on live television, and we can't sustain people who are lying to our face about something they know we know. We all watched it. We know it was an insurrection. So that's a problem. It's sowing seeds of distrust with the public. No surprise, the approval ratings are in the tank for Trump, like basement level. But I think more to your question specifically, we have January 6 rioters who are keen on getting our taxpayer money. They want to take our money by the millions.
He wants to give it to them.
He's not only wants to, he has started the process of giving it to them. And it's not just the slush fund. And the slush fund ain't dead. Ain't nobody here thinks it's dead. They're going to bring that thing back in a few weeks or months. But there are other ways January 6 rioters have already begun positioning to get taxpayer money. They have filed legal claims through the federal claim system, and they filed, in some cases, federal suits seeking money. And the Department of Justice under Trump have opened those doors. They're not trying to block it or stop it. I can count a number of cases where January 6 rioters have successfully gotten their fines and their restitution payments back for damaging the Capitol, saying, hey, I've been pardoned. Give me my hundreds or thousands of dollars back that I paid to help clean up the mess I made under court order. Trump is opening those doors. So the January 6 rioters, those who are now getting our taxpayer money, are also accordingly feeling lionized, like they are now to be considered fairly as heroes. I tell you what, as somebody who went to all those trials, who listened to the victims, who talked with the cops, that's not something they can turn the page on. That is a horror, and it's re-traumatizing, and it's going to underwrite more poison in our system.
Well, those of us who are not willing to go down that road are certainly not going to forgive them and give them a free pass for it. This is not. This just doesn't happen. Yeah, and they think they can. They think everything's a news cycle and they can change the subject, but they don't have to change the subject on January 6th.
With no accountability, and there is now zero accountability for an attack on democracy and a violent attack on police, it's only going to keep the story alive. If Trump wants to turn the page on January 6th, I'm not convinced he does want to turn the page on it. I think he likes to mechanize it to rally the base. But if he wants to, pardoning and enriching the rioters is only going to keep this alive, because for the victims, there's been no accountability. And when you don't provide accountability for a horror on the nation, you can't turn the page on it.
I hope you're right. God, I hope you're right. Another thing that you've spent some time making sure we don't ignore are Trump's vanity projects. There's okay, I think today, again, there was a court order that he's not supposed to keep going on the White House. I don't know if that'll stop.
I'm going to pull it up while we talk so I can read from it, but go right ahead.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't read it yet. It just saw it fly by. It was recently. And I'm not in the breaking news business, so it's new for me to try and do this.
I got you, man. Got 136 pages on my phone.
All right, well, what's going on with the white, all of these.
Let me break down.
He's wanting taxpayer money. Yeah.
I'm gonna start with the White House ballroom, because I think it's indicative of the bigger picture. The 136-page ruling from an appeals court here in Washington, D.C., which has again halted work on the ballroom effective 2 weeks from today, lays out the bigger picture. What the appeals court ruled, not unanimously, but in a majority, was that, quote, each president is a temporary tenant of the White House, not the owner. The president has no claim of constitutional assignment to do things to the property. But here's the bigger issue. It says over just 3 days in October 2025, without undertaking promised consultations or obtaining Congress's permission, Trump bulldozed the entire East Wing in order to construct a massive 90,000 square foot ballroom paid for by private funds with no congressional oversight. Quote, Congress has not ceded unfettered authority to the executive branch to dramatically redesign, reshape, and reconstruct the White House. Same is going to be true over that monumental arch he wants to put that will literally overshadow Arlington National Cemetery. The reflecting pool debacle is another indication of that. And I'll tell you what, he's got his sights set on doing more things. Some of this will be a flat out embarrassment, like the reflecting pool. Some of this will be absolutely disheartening, like the image of a hole in the ground next to the White House. And some of this will be a future controversy, like the monumental arch. But it's also a political loser for him. There's nobody right now paying $6.50 a box for cereal who wants to see any taxpayer or even donor money going to these causes.
And it is taxpayer money as well as donor money. We found out.
It will be both.
You just want one more lie. Right. Yeah. Well, I've said this, Scott, and people think I'm crazy, but I hope he builds the arch, because I just think after we take back our country, there are things we have to do to get over this trauma. And I think giving Americans a chance for $10 a swing to take a sledgehammer until it's gone is going to be one of the most healing things we've ever done.
Like a Berlin Wall moment?
Yes, exactly like a Berlin Wall moment. I think Mar-a-Lago should be the Smithsonian Museum of American Fascism. I just think you have to take their symbols and use them to educate Americans about this threat we've just come through. Or we're right at the moment we're still in.
I appreciate you bringing that up. I'm surprised that we haven't yet really launched on the biggest issue of the 2028 campaign. I guess we're waiting for November 4th for this, but the biggest issue is, do Democrats want to restore everything Trump has taken over or damaged, or do they want to fight fire with fire? Do they want a politically obedient Department of Justice to fight back and stop and correct all the things Trump did? Or do they just want to restore all the norms and let things settle themselves out and fix themselves over generations? I don't know the answer to that. I'm just telling you, that's the proxy.
I'm glad you raised that question.
Unfurl.
I am really glad you raised that question, because we have evidence in this Democratic primary season that is coming to a close. And I am in awe of what Democrats have done in this primary season. Not that I agree with every candidate, I don't, but I agree with some of them. And that's what happens in a big democracy, in a big tent. You get people but they all share a passion for this country. And the energy we have seen from voters is the era of let's make a deal is over. It was okay when there were two legitimate political parties representing American interests and you came together and you negotiated a deal. The Republicans ended that game a long time ago and you didn't catch on and you got your ass kicked. It's time on our side to come with some vigor and say, yeah, we're not moving the goalposts for you every day you want to move the goalposts. That's not happening. We care about the democracy. We're going to fix it. And so I don't think anybody wants to weaponize the Justice Department on the other side. I don't think anybody on the Democratic side wants retribution. They want accountability. And they're not exactly the same thing. We can do accountability. So I think they answered that question for you in this primary.
If I were moderating a Democratic presidential primary debate, which I would hope to do over the next couple of years, it's the first question. Do we want to restore everything Trump changed? And if not, what do you want to keep? Do you want to keep where the president gets to decide singularly to build monuments in Washington, D.C.? Do we want to have an obedient attorney general? Do we want to have our billionaire buddies come in, unfurl whatever interests they have? Do we want to subvert Congress? If you don't want to do those things, please say so declaratively. There's a lot of Americans who are going to be reassured to hear that. Or are there Democrats who say, no, we got to fight fire with fire? We restore some norms, but not all of them, because we can't just unilaterally disarm. I don't know what's better, but I want to hear them debate
I
that.
think it's a very good question. And any of them who are smart, Scott, are going to say, we do not want to fight fire with that fire. That fire tears down a democracy and destroys everybody. And not every war is won just by dropping bombs, as these idiots are finding out in Iran. There are smart things we can do, that are legal things to do, that are constitutional things to do. And by the way, that includes changing the way our Supreme Court thinks about the Constitution, because whatever we do, they will try and undo. But there are legal ways to do this.
Let me interject there. I don't want to commandeer your program, but
no, I love this. My program is conversation.
Fair enough. You bring up the Supreme Court. I swear, I don't know where the Democratic base that is voting in these primaries right here, right now, nominating people like Abdul al-Sayed, and in New York and Colorado, Democratic Socialists. I have no idea the Democratic base would fall on court packing, on adding more Supreme Court justices to fix the overturning of Roe, to fix the overturning of voting rights, to fix the racist gerrymandering of America. I don't know. And you got 2 years and 5 months as Democrats to figure out what you think about these things. I should say less than 2 years now, right? Or 2 years until these primaries start. You got that much time to figure it out. Because I don't know where they'd stand, and I could hear arguments on both sides of that.
I don't believe a nominee can win the Democratic primary if they say, yeah, we want to keep Trump's abuses and use them ourselves. I don't think they can win if they say the Supreme Court's just fine the way it is and we're going to leave them alone. I don't think so, because we can't govern with them. And people are impatient to govern. So there are going to be court reforms. There are going to be ethics at the court. Oh my God, they might have to file ethics laws like every other judge in the country. Oh my God. And if we can't expand the court, then we can put them on senior status. And suddenly a whole bunch of them don't get to decide these things. And the Constitution, which I always have handy, has an exceptions clause in it. And Republicans have used it. And it's an exception to what the Supreme Court can actually do. If we pass real voting rights, we got to say, you know what, this is not subject to your review. We're done with this. So
that question's going to come up. And yes, I like you have difficulty envisioning a Democrat winning a primary for the White House without making some massive court reforms part of the pledge. But I'm wondering what that does in November when they got to run in a general election where they can easily be caricatured as court packers who are trying to instill a liberal agenda. It's tough.
I think it's a fight that they can't run away from.
Yeah.
They want to restore a rule of law agenda, and I think the court doesn't know how to defend itself. Republicans can try and stand in and defend the court, but overturning precedent and overturning lower courts, when they vote, when every one of the lower courts says this is the law, this is the Constitution. By the way, we've looked at the facts, and the Supreme Court says, yeah, we don't care about the facts. We're going a different way. I think that's hard to defend, and I would think Democrats could do great if they took that fight on.
I think that's
just me. That's just me. All right. So I have an observation I want to get your take on. And it's came up for me in the response to Abdullah Sayed's victory in Michigan. A lot of people said, well, he has a lot of outreach to do to bring the party together. I agree. And then they said the outreach he has to do is about Israel and with Jewish voters. And I'm saying to myself, oh my God, that's the worst thing I've ever heard. It's with Black voters in Detroit, right? I mean, Black voters in Detroit voted for him like, no, not at all. And they remember when this, like, let's not vote for Kamala Harris because of Gaza happened. And they let Trump win that state. And a Black woman ahead of the ticket didn't get their support. I see this time again, like I see what's happening in the South with voting rights, and we don't, how can reporting and people who do what I do wake up and understand that if we are going to move forward in this country, this time as a real democracy, we have to be serious and knowledgeable in our talking about and working with Black America.
I don't proclaim to be an expert on this particular issue, but I talked to one, so I can tell you that much.
Yep.
On CNN's Newsnight, I was joined Tuesday night by a former Obama advisor who said, before we know the results out of this primary, let me tell you, Abdul El Sayed's got to fix relationships in the city of Detroit, because people in the city of Detroit, Black voters, Black men, Black women, remember 2024, where Dearborn, Michigan, which is home, by the way, the largest Arab American population in the Western Hemisphere lives in Michigan, in that community. There was a lot of people who said anybody but Biden or anybody but Harris, or we're not going to support them because of what we believe is happening with policies in Israel. You don't need a real long memory to remember 2024, but trust me, nobody's forgotten. Going to have to repair that relationship to make sure that there is the vibrant turnout out of Wayne County, Michigan. Anybody who runs as a Democrat is going to need to win the Senate race. That needs to be yesterday's job, much less tomorrow's job.
Yeah, I think it's all over the country. I don't see as much attention, and I can't believe it again, to Black America as the moment warrants. I mean, it's, after all, the civil rights revolutions of the 1960s that are being undone.
It's literally American history. The Civil Rights Act of the 1960s is being disemboweled in front of our eyes, and the Voting Rights Act being decimated in the last few months is not going undetected by voters. I talked to Gina Hinojosa, Democrat running for the Texas governor's seat, who said, yes, she just yesterday had a big event on the Voting Rights Act because people are still pissed in Texas about a racist gerrymander that launched this wave of mid-decade gerrymandering across America. They're pissed about it. And South Carolina saw a unique increase in Democratic primary voting in the wake of what the Supreme Court did. People showed up because they want to reaffirm that they don't think this is acceptable, this type of racial gerrymandering. So it's not coming without political costs. And we'll see what races swing on that.
And this is one of the reasons why I think taking on the Supreme Court is not a losing job for Democrats, right? The Voting Rights Act is one of the greatest, in my view, one of the greatest pieces of legislation ever passed by any legislature in the world. It says in our country, if you're a citizen, period. And that's it. You get the same rights as everybody else. It's a fabulous piece of law. And the Supreme Court said 60 years later, no, you know what? We were wrong. We've been wrong for 60 years. It's unconstitutional. We don't need it. And they were proven wrong like 4 minutes after they did it. So I'm back to this question about Supreme Court. Again, I don't think you can be nominated as a Democrat given our electorate without taking the court on, particularly on voting rights.
You're going to have to at least propose term limits, at least 18-year term limits, whether it's fan fiction or not. You better be for it if you're going to try to get a nomination.
Yep. All right. So what is the view in DC from the people you talk to about this primary season that's coming to an end?
I love this question. The primary season has not been an anti-Republican thing. It's been an anti-incumbent thing. There are incumbents dropping to underfunded challengers left and right, politically speaking, literally speaking.
Yeah.
We just saw another one last night. Andy Ogles,
Yeah.
Trump adoring Republican in his second term in Tennessee, lost to a state agriculture commissioner. Andy Ogles has a series of prior controversial statements, some real menacing on social media that he's been blamed for. He lost, but he was Trump endorsed. Ooh, incumbent loses in a primary is rare in America.
Yep.
Trump endorsed Republican congressman loses in a primary.
Yep.
That's a problem. He's not the first Trump endorsed person to lose this week. So did somebody in Michigan running in the Michigan 8th district near Flint. Trump endorsed, lost to somebody who dropped out of the race. So we have an anti-incumbent sentiment on the Republican side, and you better believe we have one on the Democratic side. You saw it happen.
I know we do.
Boom, boom. 2 incumbents ousted in their primaries in New York City. Unheard of. A third anti-establishment primary nominee or candidate won elsewhere in New York City. Colorado, a woman who's been here for 3 decades, lost her primary. I think you're seeing anti-incumbent sentiment. Both parties have it. It's the story of the primary season. We haven't seen incumbents drop in primaries like this in my time here. I've been here 23 years. And oh, by the way, so did Bill Cassidy. So did John Cornyn. Lost. And the one that was perhaps the most telling is one that didn't get a lot of attention. The Democratic senator from Colorado, Michael Bennet, known quantity, overwhelmingly won his Senate races, lost his pursuit of the Democratic gubernatorial nomination in Colorado. That, to me, is the symptom of an anti-incumbent sentiment. I don't know what this means for November. Anti-incumbent sentiment means nobody better feel safe in their seats. There are no really, really safe seats right now because people want to throw the bums out. And that means the people, not one party. Everybody wants to throw the bums out.
I feel like that's completely correct. I also feel like the animating force of the throw the bums out sentiment is different in the Republican primaries than the Democratic primaries. And I feel like it's mostly, with a few exceptions you name, mostly on the Republican Party, it's they haven't been loyal enough to the president.
Yep.
They've been
the
very
exception of Tennessee. That's right.
Right. Mostly that's what it is. On the Democratic side, it has been the era of let's make a deal's got to be over. We want to get stuff done. And anybody who isn't like storming the Capitol in a peaceful way, but determined to get things done, is not going to be our guy anymore. So they feel different to me.
The enthusiasm gap is one issue, and the generic ballot's a second issue. Let me explain them both. First of all, the enthusiasm gap, even in a throw the bums out election, favors Democrats. Democratic turnout in their primaries is a lot higher than Republican turnout in their primaries. Feels like Democrats are jonesing to vote more than Republicans are. It's going to benefit Democrats no matter who they nominate. No matter who they nominate, that helps the Abdul El-Sayeds of the world. That helps the Democratic Socialists of the world. That helps frontline Democrats trying to cling to their seats. Everybody's benefiting when the Democrats are this eager to vote once they've chosen their nominees. The generic ballot issue, this is why a throw the bums out election favors Democrats too, because the generic ballot says there's an 8-point spread for Democrats because the public tends to view Republicans as in charge. You know why they view it that way? Because Republicans are in charge, because they are. So if you want to throw the bums out, the independent voters and the perhaps the more tepid Democratic voters are in on the joke. They know who's actually running things. The chaos inside the anti-establishment movement inside the Democratic Party should be done when the primary season's done. It's still a big problem for independent voters and soft Democratic voters on November 3rd, if you're the GOP.
Well, as I say, not being a reporter, but being a partisan in this, I hope you're right. I hope you're right.
I just look at numbers. And again, that's how we differentiate journalists. They have receipts. I'm going to bring facts and numbers to the party here. When I say this favors Democrats, I see the generic ballot polling. I see 2 different gold standard analysts, the Cook Political Report and the Center for Politics at the University of Virginia. They are shifting all their forecasts towards blue. And they're not doing so because they're being paid to or they have any motivations. Their motivation is right.
So a couple things can happen between now and November. Democrats can make a lot of mistakes on the campaign trail. and some will, no question.
Bet the farm on it. Yep.
Yep. Republicans can get their act together and start governing better and make Americans feel like they care about them.
That's somebody else's farm on that, but sure. They could,
yeah,
they could
right. I don't think that's going to happen either. And I think, right, absent, I mean, given that they control everything, if they don't decide, I mean, I'm it's so gobsmacked, it's hard to talk about this. So that a memo went out to Republicans about what they should do when they're home for vacation, you know, and I read it and it's like, okay, well, first you have to say, brag about the good stuff in the one big beautiful bill. Yeah. And then say we're taking on elites and getting rid of Biden era tax giveaways to the rich. And when I got through laughing about putting those two things together, the thing I notice is that one thing it never does is say, like, ask voters what they think, you know, because right now they work for the boss and their job is to go home and sell. And Americans, we have been subject to more marketing than any human beings on the planet. We know when somebody's coming to sell and when somebody's coming to listen. And I just don't think this is a time to come and sell that stuff.
If I was being hazed and I was required to write that memo, I'd probably write the same things. I mean, you got to tout the things you passed. People aren't thrilled with costs. People aren't thrilled with the fact they can't afford college, housing, or groceries. Might as well tout the big, beautiful bill because it was something passed that aimed to fix some of the problems. Whether it does or not, got to do that. I mean, I'm not sure what else you would tout. But that's the problem. They're walking around with a losing hand. Today's jobs report showing a 23,000 job loss across America this month. That stuff was kryptonite in 2010. Those jobs reports to Democrats. They got their butts handed to them in the midterms. Those jobs reports were banging them every month. You can see a similar scenario here. There's no good argument to make about the state of the economy, no matter how much Trump tries to.
And we are at war. And that's not, I mean, Pete Hegseth is going to lose this war twice because we were told it was over and it's a new war. Americans don't like that either, I don't think.
The war is unpopular for several reasons. It always is going to be. It should be in this context because it's wasn't declared officially by Congress. In fact, Congress has voted to deauthorize this thing, to reassert its war power authority. It's economically devastating, and I don't think people know what the exit strategy is because I'm not sure what the exit strategy is because I'm not sure they know what the exit strategy is. This thing will remain unpopular. A war with popularity in the tank in its opening months, that's a hell of a political liability.
Well, and voting, help me understand this, and then I'll let you go. But Congress voted that the Epstein files should be made public, and then they weren't. They're going to confirm the guy who made sure they weren't in another vote. Congress voted to deauthorize this war in Iran. They're going to vote to give them a whole lot more money for the war in Iran.
Maybe. I got to tell you, I don't know how they do that. I know they have to. They have to. So maybe they will do it. I don't see the pathway right now to getting those $80 billion Trump's asking for the war. May not be your question, but that's a real problem.
They'll make it part of the trillion that they're going to do generally, and then they'll futz with it inside the department. Sure. But I don't know how Republicans go campaign on just those two things. Like this is what we voted to do. Oh, wait a minute, this is what we voted to do. Just if I'm in a debate with one, I'm going to say, like, square that.
Campaigning so much is not a battle over the answer to the question. The campaigning is a battle over who gets to ask the question. If they're talking about the war, they're talking about tariffs or prices. I don't know how they can justify their performance over the last 2 years because nobody feels those things are in a good place.
Yeah.
If they want to talk about, men and women's sports, they want to talk about democratic socialism and the encroachment of socialism. They want to talk about things that are in the, I suppose, the values voter bandwidth. They have the capability to mechanize those things. They have done so recently. Yeah. It's a matter of battle over the question. And but they're fighting in a different terrain. They're fighting in a world where everybody's in their own information silo where they feel comfortable. And there are enough voters in the silo of, we talk about men and women's sports every freaking day, that they can actually mechanize this. And if you put on some of these red news silos, you don't even know that the reflecting pool case was dropped. You don't even know that there was a terrible jobs report today. So if people stay in their cocoons, you actually can campaign pretty effectively on just the crap.
Yeah, 30% maybe. I mean, people
Hey,
still have to buy gas. They still have to buy food. There's nothing you can do about that, you know.
Those 30% will win you a Senate race
They
in
might.
Kansas. Maybe. Those
No,
30% will win you a
Democrats aren't
Senate
gonna
race in
win.
South Carolina.
They're not going to win all the races. That's for sure. It's a tough campaign. You look, if you're listening to this and you haven't already gone on Substack and subscribed to the Day Ahead newsletter, I haven't done my job, because really, truly, it is important that we know what the facts are. It's important that we get facts from journalists we trust. So, like, go online and subscribe. I mean it.
I hope you've noticed, and I hope it's important to everybody, that when we do the newsletter every single day, the receipts are right there. We show you the document, we show you the clip, we show you the thing we're reporting on to make sure we're not conflating, influencers with opinions with facts and journalism. So we show the work.
Yeah, and those of us who are in my business, the ones that are worth it actually rely on real facts to when we think of them. We don't make this stuff up. So I rely on your work. Anyway, I really appreciate the time. You got to be
the best part of my day. Glad we did it.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Thank you.
Thank you, my friend.